Are we good? Are we good? Peoples, are you good? That is the question. Welcome to the Stoked Bloke Show. I'm Barton Lynch. We're coming to you today from the Pipeline Studios. Good to be back in the seat with my good buddy Peter PK King. Pipeline itself is just out front, but we are feeling like we're in springtime.
It's a little tiny.
It's tiny out there, heading towards the flat period of the year, and June, July, August, give or take the odd opportunity to ride a wave. It is generally flat around here. So the North Shore, in a sense, is a bipolar environment.
The button's been switched off.
Switches itself off completely, goes flat like the Mediterranean, turns the button on, builds up momentum into January where it's ginormous for every day of the month, and then tapers back down. But it's been a pleasure. It was a great winter. We're enjoying springtime. You've been enjoying yourself, mate. Where have you been?
I just jumped over to California for a movie premiere for someone who works with us at a New Earth Project, one of the ambassadors.
Kimi Fasani.
Yeah, and she made
Congratulations,
a movie
mate.
called Butterfly in a Blizzard. It's about her starting a young family as still a competitive athlete and what that meant, having kids in the middle of wanting to perform her best. And then she got struck with cancer, which she beat, and it's a pretty cool story. Yeah. And so, we just went and had a little premiere in California. When I was there, I surfed Kelly's wave pool, too.
See, that's what I was trying to get to.
We call it Kelly's wave pool. I don't even think it's his wave pool.
No, it's not. No.
It's Dirk's wave pool, let's be honest.
And Kelly's got his trailer there, right? He's got like a home base there.
Yeah. It's called the
cool
Kelly
is that?
Slater Surf Ranch, which you surfed a wave at.
I've surfed a couple waves, but not enough.
Yeah, but I got to surf with my friend Monty. He got a couple waves, so it was a wonderful time. Trying out new things, new boards. I like not having to duck dive.
I like duck diving, but, if I was getting perfect waves and I could just float my way back out, I could live with that.
When I watch those WSL contests in Kelly's wave pool or the Abu Dhabi, man, I'm pretty bored watching it. But if you get to surf it,
yes, mate,
it's a little more exciting.
See, there you go. It's such a perfect wave, which is the perfect segue into the WSL Gold Coast Pro, and what would have to be said was the most successful event for the WSL in many a year.
Like you said, snapper's very perfect. It pockets out, so it limits the turns that can be done there sometimes.
Kind of boring to watch. I never really enjoyed snapper as a spectacle that much.
Yeah, the surfing was way better at Burleigh, right? The performance surfing.
Well, there were crazy barrels, but you didn't know when they were going to come.
I didn't know. Do you know?
No, and I think that you can see them when you're out there. You know when the waves hit, and they do hit certain parts, and the sand moves so much, though, that it's a constant variable, and you need to be on it. But the fact that you can get unbelievable tube rides, great carves and wave of the face of the wave surfing, and then go to the air and we get that thrown in. I thought it was a perfect spectacle of high performance surfing, and I don't know if it was the fact that, Geordie has done well and is in the race this year. Julian comes back and does so well, and it just felt like there was a competitive vigour and venom to the event. And maybe Felipe being back and having the best back, not having Felipe, not having Gabrielle, not having John's, not a very exciting place to be. This thing lit up. Here's the question, peoples. Was it good karma? Was it the fact that the woke agenda period of life, that upside down period of time, has kind of transpired, and the WSL has come back to normal and admitted and accepted the failings of the experiment and come back to Pipeline to finish, and at the event when they announce that, and there's just this positivity in the air, like every single man, woman and child and every other was like, yes, back to Pipeline to finish.
I don't know. I think you're right. They made some good calls and on the heels of some good decisions, and it worked out. Hey, good surfers, good waves is always exciting.
Yeah, but there was something energetic about this event, and I think...
Well, Burleigh was where they invented man-on-man surfing, right?
Yeah, mate, you're on it. That is the point.
There's a historical authenticity to being on that point.
That's what it's all about.
For Australia surfing, it was very important.
For world surfing, it is an amphitheatre like no other. That headland is unbelievable to hang out on, even on a free surf day. Just sit on that headland and watch perfect waves. The crowd got up in arms. That was the most vocal crowd, I would think, outside of Brazil that we've seen at an event in a long time. So all of those elements came together. They announce that they're changing and going back on what the experiment of the last few years was. The failure of it. They also go back to the birthplace of man-on-man surfing at Burleigh Heads and pay their respects in there and get rewarded with great surf. It wasn't spectacular for Burleigh.
I mean, I grew up
6'5",
watching
maybe?
footage of Burleigh,
Yeah.
and I thought it was a perfect wave. I didn't know the sand shifted and it could be small and windy.
It's pretty
and bad.
perfect, but it does. It moves around a little bit. That wasn't very good Burleigh. It can be much, much better. That's a 6, and they make it look like a 7. You know what I mean? Because they're so good. But it wasn't that good at Burleigh, but it proves the venue is fantastic, the connection with the roots and back to that very first person-on-person surfing event and the idea of Peter Druins to create this battle-style surfing event. And it all paid off. It all came together for what was one of the most enjoyable surfing events. Or is that because it's one of the only ones I've watched this year? You tell me.
Well, I don't know what year it was. Peter Harris won the
Yes.
trials and then won the
there.
contest.
Yeah, I was there.
You were there.
I hitchhiked
So then
from Sydney to Burleigh.
So Julian wins the trials, gets to the final. This is kind of mimicking that historical feat.
Yeah.
You were there watching that one. What year was it? 78 or 80? Or?
It's 80, 78, 80, 79, I don't know,
did you
somewhere
ever
in
surf
there.
a comp at
I know
Burleigh?
that I hitchhiked and I got a ride with Mike Davis, who's a surfboard shaper, and I laid in the back of a van the whole way from Sydney to the Gold Coast.
How many hours drive is that?
That was 10, 12 hours back then in the back of a truck.
How old were you?
I was just going to see the pros. I was going to see that event, and I was getting there no matter what it took. And I was most probably 16, 17. I was a young kid.
Did you bring a board, or were you just there to see it?
Hey? No, I took a surfboard. But that was, you couldn't really hitchhike with a quiver.
No, of course not. Well, no one. I didn't even travel on tour with a quiver.
So congratulations to all of the surfers. Yeah. Hey, it was an amazing event. To the administration, to the new CEO and the changes made, we're all very happy about it. The only thing that, with the changes, how do you feel, firstly?
Well, we're all validated. I mean, everyone knew it was wrong what they did with the cut,
Yep.
not finishing at pipeline, removing
Yep.
all that. Despite what reasons they pretended to have to save money, to make it more exciting, to have less days of competition. There's so many other ways they could have fixed all that.
Yes.
But they weren't listening.
Yes.
They were stubborn-headed, and everyone hated it. I mean, from the surfers
They
on
did.
down. We lost a lot of great surfers on tour to the cut. So what were your favorite performances? Aaron Brooks?
Well, Aaron surfed amazing. Betty Lou lit up in the final. That performance in the final was one-sided.
She beat your girl, Mrs. ISA, all-time champ Sally Fitzgibbons.
Sally grinded her way through and was looking so good. And then at the final pole,
I didn't like that where she was just throwing away airs. I wish she would have put her head down and tried to grind out some turns. But
yeah, you would think by now that you understand that if the wave presents and it's a no-brainer, of course. Straight away, because the wave dictates what you do. But the idea is to get a couple of good rides and then go for it.
If you're not
landing 100% of the time.
I feel like she did that. I'm throwing it away too early.
And almost like a sign of surrender.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it really, at a point there, you need to get pissed at yourself and just go, what are you doing? Let's boom, 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 put one together. That was 7, sweet. And create the momentum. It was a fairly ordinary performance in the final from Sally. Amazing that she made it there. She's on fire. That in itself, with an Australian crowd on a Saturday afternoon at Burleigh Heads, the crowd's swelling, everyone's having a great time. Just to be a part of that and, to have made the final was amazing for Sally. And then for Betty Lou to get her first win there, that was massive. Gabriella Bryan is now leading the women's ratings.
Deserved.
Caitlin Down into second, Molly Picklin third, Isabella Nichols in fourth. She's had a great old go of it, Isabella, consistent, another good result for her. Tyler Wright and Betty Lou moved all the way up into sixth. 7 is Caroline Marks, so the world champ's down in 7th at this point in time. Erin Brooks is 8th, Luana Silva 9th, and Sawyer, Lindblad. So all the young guns, really, Sawyer, Luana, Erin, they've all made their way. Betty Lou, all they made their way into that top 10. Vahini Fierro got a semi-final down there. She lost to Betty Lou on a very basic mistake with priority, where she just kind of thought that Betty Lou wasn't going to go it. Betty Lou looked at it and realised that she's just right in front of me. All I got to do is like action like I'm going to catch the wave. She's in my way. It's an interference. And Vahini didn't even look over the shoulder or really know that it had happened or what had gone on. It was a really, disappointing way to finish that for her. A great campaign to make the semis. And all in all, Sally Fitzgibbon's still back in 15th. She's had a terrible year bar this result. But every heat for those stalwarts, the veterans, the ones who are going beyond what we thought they could and what age would allow, they're important heats. And what she's doing now, she's inspired, I'm sure. And Julian Wilson would have inspired her coming back. What did you think of Julian's performance? Let's talk specifically about it.
Unreal. I mean, we traveled with Julian for years when he was on the Hurley team when we were doing all that. And I mean, he was always one of the top surfers in the world. And towards the end, a couple of years, I can recall quite a few heats where he just didn't want to finish the heat. He was like stubborn.
Right.
He wouldn't ride a wave. He needed like a 4, but waiting for an 8 because he had this like, I don't know if it was a proudness that he wanted to overperform and show how great he was, but he wasn't willing to do some of the little things to win a heat. He was so aggressive this whole contest. Yeah. He was on a wave every 3 minutes. Yeah. And going for it and doing stuff and just blasting airs. That make rate must have been about 80%.
The make rate on the airs was absolutely incredible.
He looked, is this a weird term? Brazilian.
He looked like a free surfer who'd just come back to a contest and had been able to surf the way he wanted for a while.
He looked like part of the Brazilian storm. He looked like he had hunger, energy, desire. I mean, an aggressive, hungry Julian Wilson on tour. That's insane.
And there's a little flare up in the final where Felipe doesn't lose the priority. Yeah, dude. And that was a controversial moment.
It got the entire surf world worked up. That battle.
That battle. And I didn't see any. I've thought that Felipe was just so fast, so sharp, so aggressive that 10-point ride, barrel to alley-oop. I couldn't have gone anywhere else in my eyes. Like, it wasn't an alley-oop section. There's most probably another tube in it. It was so steep and round. But to pull that off on top of the barrel in that situation, he was on fire. Good to see him happy again.
That thing was so pocketed out. That was a crazy landing.
Crazy landing. And it just showed how great he is. Great to see him back. Felipe, congratulations. Great to see you smiling and winning again.
So you had Felipe winning when you watched it?
Yeah, in my mind. Yeah, you got some feedback from friends.
I read online here's some quotes that we got.
Yes.
Taj Burrow.
Yes, please.
Says, looking back, Felipe's wave might have been overscored, but it's so hard to deny how hard he goes and how powerful his turns are. I think Julian looked great, but he was a little slower. And his turns maybe didn't have the same impact. In my opinion, Felipe was the best surfer, but Julian caught the best waves.
Goodbye. Yeah, he's unmatchable. I felt the same way. Watching, I thought that Julian was just a little slower through the rail. Yeah. Things didn't sear as cleanly and crispy. At moments, he did.
Yes.
But on other waves, you're watching. Oh, it looks a little slow.
In the final, he didn't have the same pizzazz.
I don't think he had the same. No, as he had in the earlier rounds. There were earlier rounds where the pizzazz was at that peak. And it looked a little off its peak where Felipe stayed at its peak, and then you ain't going to match it.
Yeah, so Mick Fanning says, if you weren't on the beach, you don't get the full scope on it. It's so different on TV. The speed, height, and distance, to me, it was just a huge win for surfing.
Yeah, good call too. Diplomatic, but at the same time, he's saying that when you were there was no questions about who won the event. Yeah. Is that what he's saying?
Yes, that's what he's saying.
Yeah, thank you.
Leo Fioravanti, the Italian stallion, says, as far as Felipe is concerned, there's nobody on tour, actually nobody in the world that can do those 2 turns at that speed. And that's talking about that 9.0 that people were kind of complaining about.
Yeah, it's a bit
pushing that hard in that small of a space. It was pretty special, and I'm happy that the judges rewarded amazing power surfing. All up, I think it was fair. An amazing final.
Yeah. What about Kelly Slater? You had a chat to him. What did Kel have to say? For me, I agree with those comments. They're the best surfers in the world. They're people who are present there at the event. I thought the 9 was overscored, but I've seen 2-turn waves be overscored for the past decade.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a common thing. 2 turns will get you more than 4 turns.
Well, I don't know if it's overscored because they got to be proportional, and they like to throw up high numbers.
Well,
but you're right.
It finishes on a high.
8, and then they could have moved the other scores down a bit, but it is what it is.
I just feel like more is better. I love seeing more.
Yeah.
Go, mate.
Quote, Kelly Slater, Felipe won. I mean, I could just end it right there.
You could.
Speed difference was like 2 different classes of engine. Julian had better waves but didn't capitalize. One of his last waves, he thought he got it, and the second turn, I think, was he kind of check-turned halfway through and just stopped driving the rail. That kind of set the tone for his last couple scores, just not as committed.
There you go. The
Now
world
remember,
agrees.
Kelly's jealous. Okay, so it's not an honest, fair opinion.
No, Kelly, everybody saw it that way, and I think it just speaks to the
level
level of performance.
A lot of people saw it that way.
A lot of people who know what they're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
A lot of people who want clicks, a lot of people who are in the business of selling bullshit, a lot of people who they'll find the controversy to talk about because that's their job. But for us, of the pure of heart of surfing, we thought it was a fantastic performance all round. I want to say that Kanoa Igarashi was ripping, mate. So fast, so sharp, such beautiful precision surfing, and he was unlucky at times too. You know, when you get to that performance level in those waves, so much of it comes down to the wave, and then you can be on that perfect wave and it's confusing. You make the wrong decision a couple of times. Kanoa wasn't sure whether he'd hit it or run it, and he'd run it and should have hit it and back and forwards. And so, you know, for him, that was a really another good event on the back of Bell's Beach.
Well, those guys ripped the heck out of Burleigh, didn't they? It's a performance wave.
It's how many rights have we surfed?
Well, listen to where the tour goes next. Margaret River, Trestles, Rio, J Bay. He's won all of those. He's won all of them.
Yeah.
Trestles, Rio, J Bay, and Margaret's. I mean, and then the finals.
Yeah. So
what does he
coming in hot? Makes it to Fiji.
Is he leading #1 seed and then loses to Jack Robinson? What do you think?
I think that
possibility.
The difficulty is going to get to Cloudbreak or Fiji and have those backhand tube riding challenges that have haunted him for some time and been that spectre, the ghost that's hung out the back there. And while you're trying to feel good about yourself, people keep reminding you, I've had that.
He's not afraid of big rights, though.
No, well,
he charged a big one at backdoor this year against Kelly. He won Sunset with 6 to 10 foot.
And he's had good scores at Jopu, so he can do it. But can he do it with the regularity, the consistency, and the confidence of a Jack Robinson?
He has to do it for 2 heats, better than someone who's
We'll
pretty
wait
good.
and see who makes that final 5.
Right.
And then we'll dissect that.
Okay.
But
I was getting
enough
ahead of
to
myself.
say you are getting
I was so
way
excited.
ahead. I'm so excited.
But this contest did that, didn't it?
It was great, mate.
It got everyone excited.
Congratulations, WSL. Congratulations, the surfers. Congratulations, the sport. Congratulations, Burleigh Head, Andrew Stark, and the team that had 3 weeks to go, Snap has been ruined. We're going to Burleigh. And that decision, that just was indicative of hopefully their future, because that set everything up to be so good at that event.
So do you think they just go 50-50, like let's see what bank's better next year going in, because they had great success at Burleigh?
I'd stay at Burleigh, mate. Personally, one, because of the connection and historic relevance of it, in the exact same way that they have now realised of the relevance of Pipeline in that sense to finish your world titles. Burleigh's a great venue with a great thing. You could have backups and go between the two, but with the size of infrastructure these days, that's most probably a difficult task to be flexible. Let's have a look at those ratings off the back of that event at Burleigh Heads after Bell's Beach as well. First place, Italo Ferreira.
Hanging tough.
Hanging tough, mate. Second place, do you know who's second? Yago Dora.
Yago. Goofy's atop the leaderboard. Wow.
Top 2, the Goofies.
That's Tom Carroll and Barton Lynch.
Geordie Smith in 3rd.
Finally.
Kanoa Igarashi in 4th. And Ethan Ewing in 5th.
This tour's no joke.
That's a good top 5. Eh? That's a serious top 5
no joke.
right now. And
that's a good top 5 for Fiji right there.
Yeah,
and you don't even have Robbo or Felipe.
I was about to go. The second 5 could be better. The second 5.
Or
6th is Felipe. 7th is Jack Robbo. 8th is Baron Mamiya.
Whoa.
9th is Miggy. And 10th is Leonardo. But you've got Jack and Barron there in that back part 2 heading towards that top 5 who at that particular break on the backhand they will get barreled longer, deeper, bigger than anyone nearly in the world, those two guys. So at 7th and 8th, and then the world champ at 6th, the two-time world champ. That's a great-looking ratings. Rio Wade is just outside the 10th, and Jake Marshall. But Alejo Muniz, let's give him a shout-out, made the semis at Burleigh too. Good to see him back. And there's those stories of Sally and Alejo where if you keep trying and you keep going and you don't stop, it will happen. You know what I mean? Stop, it ain't, 100%. But if you keep going, and that's what we learn all the time about surfing in general and about that attitude, you know, when you're looking at a wave and you're thinking, oh, I can't make this one. I'm going to nose, or I'm going to... There's always that fine line on it, but there's some of them that they're the ones you should go, no, I'm going. I can do this. And get that, make this thing strong and charge and push yourself over. And we're going to see a back end of a year that's going to be pretty sick. The locations for next year, that's what I would like to have a quick peek at, PK. Starts at Bells Beach, so the off-season is...
Much shorter,
but still it's a few months. Yeah, it's January, February, March, kind of, you know.
No, it's more than that. The off-season is going to be October, November, December.
Oh, this year's, yes.
January, February. When does it start?
Doesn't actually say the
Till
exact dates.
April. It's going to start.
Normally it's Easter, right?
There's going to be 6 months break.
This was a really late Easter. It's most probably an early Easter this year.
I think WSL's going to do a seniors tour with you guys. Wait, did you ever surf Burleigh in a contest?
Yeah, I did.
An
quite a few times.
Event?
You know, this is one of those stories for me. When Dad died and a few months later Mum put us in the car and we drove up the coast. You know, we drove from Sydney to Cairns and just took our time in a station wagon with a tent off the back and just slept wherever it is. And I surfed all the spots and we got to Burleigh Heads. And it was 3 to 4 and as perfect as I had never seen as a 12-year-old kid. I'd never seen a wave that perfect. And I remember being out there.
And the water at Burleigh Heads would have been more see-through than Sydney, right?
Oh, it was so warm.
I mean, see-through water.
Beautiful
you see the
water,
white sand
bottoms, just peeling.
Different.
And I'm watching guys sit in tubes. Peter Lawrence was an incredible surfer. Dave McDougall was another incredible surfer, and these two guys I saw on that first day. And as I drove the coast, I had a book, and every great surfer or good surfer that I saw along that road from Sydney to the end of the waves, I wrote their name in a book and ended up with this full list of all of the good surfs I'd seen at every beach I'd been to, you know. Wow. And I watched those guys get barreled, and I remember just sitting there going, this is the best wave in the world. Like, it's incredible, Burleigh, you know.
So you have your own history with Burleigh.
Yeah, that was a real intimate moment before pro surfing, before all that stuff. And then in 1985, Tom Carroll's won 83, 84, and it's 85 and Tom Curran's leading the ratings, and somehow I'm on my 3rd year on tour and I end up in a world title race with Tom Curran. And I wasn't that, I wasn't that strong inside and vocally proud. And I wasn't at that point in my life, I wasn't a big character. I was talking myself down and feeling shy a little bit. And all of a sudden I'm in this world title race with Tom Curran, and it turns into a bit of a race, and we both make the final at Burleigh Heads. And we surf the Burleigh Heads event. The final, he wins the final, I get second. I was stoked.
How were the waves?
I was stoked to have been a goofy and made the final at Burleigh Heads, you know. The waves were small, dribbly, really hard to surf. And sometimes the rock break, you know, when it stops breaking outside on the sandbar, it comes into the rock break, and there's quite a fun little rock break. So shifted between those two. It was pretty small, pretty hard. But for me, it was a great result. And then Curran just took that power and that energy and continued on, won the world title. But I was in there for a little bit. We were in there having a shake. And speaking of shakes, it's one of the weirdest moments. You know when you shake someone's hand?
Yes.
Yeah. So yours has got some authority, but it's
I'm
quite
trying to
gentle.
Establish dominance.
Well, not really.
I'm coming in. I feel you out and just go a little over what you're doing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But it's soft though. It's not offensive. It's not.
Sure.
And then it's not like
the soft one is radical.
You know, dead.
I could tell you a story about that.
I'm going to tell you one right now. So I'm on the stage before that Burleigh final.
Who is it?
Tom Curran. And I are on the stage before that Burleigh final. And I'm standing there. I'm going to rip his head off.
And he limp wrists you.
Oh, it's the limpest, sweaty, soggy. dead fish handshake of all time.
Just
Still
like,
haunts me.
Like squeezing a
I
marshmallow.
could never get like this.
No,
Yeah,
I have one like that.
Don't give me any.
A Ritz Aramburu. I was like, hey, what's up, a Ritz? And he just went. It was softer. It was like a dead man's hand.
Yeah.
And I was like, what just happened? I haven't forgot it. You don't forget those.
You know, I did an interview with a Ritz Aramburu for the Stoked Bloke show coming up very soon. You'll see that in a few months, people.
Should have asked him about it.
Yeah, I should have asked him. I will now. So Curran gave me one of them, and I was sweaty. It was soft. It was limp. It lacked anything, and I just was ready to tear that hand off his wrist. And it just stayed in the back of my head. I could never get it out of my head.
Gotcha.
Oh, he got me with the Limp Bizkit handshake.
Wow, that's funny.
Sad news coming out of here, out of the island of Oahu, out of the islands of Hawaii, and for the surfing world and community is the passing of Clyde Aikau, a great man, someone who didn't mess around, mate, didn't clown about. He wasn't a joker. He wasn't, he could tell a joke and he had a sense of humour, but Uncle Clyde was a serious guy and he would just lay it down straight up. He knew where you stood, and he was an incredible, incredible waterman. He did his brother very proud, did his family that name proud.
What a continuation of his brother's legacy.
What an amazing commitment. And
Clyde wasn't a billionaire.
No.
So he didn't have the means to take over that event. He had to negotiate with the family and potential sponsors through the Quicksilver days and the family getting it back, bringing in Olukai and Hawaiian Air. I mean, it's a hard thing to manage that pipeline thing, especially when WSL is going, hey, we got a big wave tour for a while, then they didn't.
Yeah.
Clyde is like, he was a beach boy running tours in canoes, singing songs. He wasn't coming from a place of huge money to run those events. He had to pull from a lot of people, but like you said, he had leadership quality.
Exactly.
And I watched that event. He re-emerged that event to be one of the premier events in the world.
100%.
Under his leadership.
Yes.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, incredible. And driven with clarity and focus. And even when he would talk to the surfers, he'd go, no, that's the way it is. I've seen some videos on Instagram where he goes, no, it's this way and that's what's happening, and there's no second guessing.
And anything he told the surfers to do, he was willing to do. He went out in the heat, separated his shoulder 2 events ago, and then went back out in the afternoon.
That was the most courageous thing I've ever seen.
At 66 years old.
He was 66 years of age, people. He's at his family's iconic event. He has a radical wipeout. Did he separate the shoulder that morning heat? He comes in,
gets it wrapped.
I come in, I get to the event late. We've gone surfing in the morning. We come back to the event. When I arrive, Uncle Clyde is on oxygen. And he's lying down there with the oxygen, and he doesn't look like he's getting up. And I think, in my heart, I'm thinking, stay down, mate. Stay down. You don't have to get up. Everyone loves you anyway. And up he gets. And he gets up and he's going again, mate. And he gets his board, and when he walked down that beach, it was the single greatest moment for me at a surfing event that I've ever witnessed. That whole beach lit up and applauded as Uncle Clyde strolled his way down to that corner, and the whole beach, the whole way along, was in rapture of applaud and respect, and it was the most chicken skin, goosebumps, pins and needles moment you have ever experienced. And then he paddles out and surfs another heat and sets a bar in massive waves at an age that really no one's ever attempted something of that level before, pulls it off in a fashion that cements. His legend was cemented anyway, but that just set the bar so high for all of us, for everyone who wants to keep surfing for the rest of their life. Uncle Clyde went, well, this is what you can do at 66 if you've got enough heart, So our thoughts and love and respect go out to the whole ohana, the Aikau ohana, to Ha'a, his boy, sending you our love. He's got so many people looking after him, and his dad. I saw them together. I'm going to cry. I saw him together at the Eddie Aikau. Yeah. And he was, Clyde was sitting there, and he's great in anybody. He'd been frail from the heart problems he'd had, and the heart attack and the surgeries and what he'd been through, and he was definitely, frailer than he was, and his boy was there with him, sitting next to him, and then Ha'a goes and paddles out and gets a bomb. And Uncle Clyde kind of knew almost at that point, like, the future's good. My boy's good, And not soon after he passes, but we pay our respects. Yeah. What a life, what an inspiration, and thanks for setting the bar so high, Uncle. We love that. Yes.
Hats off.
Hats off. Jack Robbo, we're talking about him.
Sponsored by Binance.
Sponsored by Binance.
How much does that mean? Anything for me? Do I get any of that money?
Well, it means a lot to me. I and this is a true story.
We recommend
from
crypto.
The vault. I bought 150 Binance coins for like $30 to pay the fees on Binance when I was purchasing crypto because it was cheaper. And I only used 1.5 of them. I had 148.5 left. They went from the 148 cost me $30. They are today at $660 each.
You're rich.
I have turned $30 into 60 grand, most probably, would be the reality.
Ooh.
And so I'm a big fan of the old Binance, mate, because they've saved my ass the last couple of years, mate. When property tax, when things have fallen due and I haven't had cash, I've just gone and sold some Binance coins and
Binance.
It's kept us alive.
Is it a coin? Is it an exchange? What is it?
Binance is an exchange that obviously has its own currency as well, its own coin as well, and it's one of the sort of leading exchanges in the area.
What's your password?
Asian.
If I could get all your crypto passwords, that'd be great.
So Jack Robbo hit the gold mine himself, got a crypto sponsor into our sport. I love that.
We have to find out what that means.
Hey?
Did they give him coin for payment?
I guarantee he would have took some. I wonder if he took Binance as payment. Couldn't hurt. It's at $660 a coin. It's a very strong, powerful business, and they're doing great work. Congratulations to Jack Robbo.
Do we recommend crypto to all our followers here as a hedge?
I reckon 100%. I do. I'm the worst person to listen to
but
about
do
finance
not listen
ever.
to us about your financial options.
This is not legal advice. This is not financial advice. We have no right to say it. But I'm an anarchist at heart.
We also offer medical advice.
And centralised finance.
Political advice.
Political advice, financial advice, health advice.
You like investing,
advice.
though. You like investing, huh?
Well, no, I really have never had much money to invest. I've stuck with buying a house, and doing that.
Houses,
and
the original Bitcoin.
And then when I sold my house in Australia, I had some cash in 2017 when that bull run was starting. And I'd heard about Bitcoin, and the idea of decentralised finance touches my heart, mate. I love that idea. That makes a lot of sense to me. Centralised finance ain't good for us.
Right.
We can guarantee that. And so I was into the idea, and my mate Timmy V goes, "Send me $5,000, I'll get you one." They were $5,000 Australian. By the time I send him the 5, it's 7.5, and he goes, "Oh, it's gone up 7.5." I go, "What is this? What do you mean? That was 12 hours ago." He goes, "Yeah, well, you might." I get in at 10 in the end or whatever, but it's 110 now, whatever. So I think that it's got massive potential, and the coin that would seem to be getting a lot of headlines at the moment is XRP, Ripple. And XRP is sort of originally designed as a bridging between the crypto world and blockchain and the banking industry and that sort of thing. And I think that's why it's being considered and talked about a lot at the moment, is because governments, corporations, banks, everybody recognises that maybe they can't stop. How do they stop Bitcoin? How do you know what I mean? You can't.
Right.
And so in theory, maybe there's an adoption period or an adaptation period that we're in now before mass adoption takes place. But it's an exciting ride. There's nothing quite like a little bull run in the crypto where you look at your portfolio and 1 minute it's worth whatever and you look back and it's
gone
30% more.
Or gone or boosted. Now, did the CIA create Bitcoin?
That is a great question. Who is
We cover
Satoshi?
that next episode.
Who is Satoshi?
Satoshi.
Does he even exist?
There's all these codes that say he's the CIA, but whatever.
Yeah, I know people
People
say
made
that.
money in the meantime.
Well, there's a lot of money. If it was all of a sudden the rug to be pulled out from underneath it, it would certainly siphon a lot of money out of the community, out of the world, out of the financial scene, wouldn't it? Pull the rug out. I don't hope. I hope it doesn't happen. I don't see it happening. Massive thank you to you for watching, peoples. That's today's show. Want to throw a big shout out to a New Earth project, for the Pipeline Studios, for Peter King, for the microphones, for the opportunity, and for everything they do for the environment. Check out what they're doing, peoples. It has a real heart, a real cause, and the goal is to change the world's supply chain and packaging to a sustainable future so that we're all in good hands. Thank you, a New Earth project. Thank you, PK. Thank you guys for watching.